Well, hello. We are so happy to be here with all of you beautiful young women who are going to be the leaders of conservatism and faith and family and America into the next generation. So glad to be here today. And I'm Jennifer Van Laar. I'm managing editor at RedState. People have read my articles, probably don't realize what a pro-life passion that I have, and I'm so happy to be here today with these ladies to talk about that and how you can be leaders within this movement too. So I'm going to have each of the panelists introduce themselves.
Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Lila Rose, and I am a proud mom of 2. I'm 1 in heaven, so 3 total. I am a wife, and I'm the founder and president of Live Action. So please come by our booth later. But I'm really grateful to be with all of you. Live Action is the leader for the pro-life movement in digital activism and education. So we reach millions of people every week with the truth about abortion and human dignity. And it's really all of you and all of us that are frontlining this fight for life. And I'm really excited to talk about it today with Jennifer and these lovely ladies. So thanks for being here.
Hi there. I'm kind of the new kid on the block here. I am Megan Basham. I work for the Daily Wire. I knew that would get a cheer at least. And I am a culture reporter, so I cover a lot of things in the faith arena, in the entertainment arena, and I talk a lot about how pop culture informs how we think about these issues. I am a mom myself. I'm probably the oldest one on the panel, so I have a junior hire and one who is going into the 3rd grade. So I spent a lot of years at home taking care of them and really watching all of this unfold until one day, with my little job with an evangelical magazine, which I loved and still love, I decided I needed to get in the fight. I couldn't sit back anymore. And I called the Daily Wire and just said, hey, can I have a job? And I started talking to them. And so that's why I'm here today, was I couldn't sit back anymore and I had to get in the fight.
Well, hello, ladies and the few gentlemen out there. I'm Jenna Ellis. Great to see you. And you all know me, of course, from my role with President Donald Trump as his senior legal advisor and counsel. And I'm an attorney. Yeah, give President Trump a hand. So it's so great to be with you. And I'm a Newsmax contributor now. And all of you need to subscribe to my podcast, The Jenna Ellis Show, because on that show, we take the issues of politics and really distill where do we need to look at this from the Christian worldview, from the truth-based worldview, because my journey in law started when God called me to law at the age of 14. So for all of you out there, never ever doubt that God can place a calling on your life at a very, very young age. I had no idea what he was going to do with my life and be sitting here with you today. But what I have been so passionate about in law and in advocacy is to teach and advocate the truth of the Constitution, and not just these top-level political issues, but really, why are we advocating for truth? Why do we have the best and the only argument? And why do we care so much about preserving and protecting all of our rights, including the right to life that we're going to be talking about today? Because it's based on the truth of the Word of God. And we absolutely have to continue that message. So I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Thank you, ladies. So I should add that I am a mother of 3 boys and grandma of 1 perfect little girl named Daisy. And that is the best thing that has ever happened to me, was motherhood and grandmotherhood. That's even better. But like Jenna, I felt a calling in my life young to be in the business world and to be doing a lot outside the home. But I also never wanted anything more than to be a mom. And I think that resonates with this pro-life movement and everything that we want to do to protect the next generation of girls and boys, so that they can even just get to this earth and have the opportunities that we've all had. So I'm going to share a really personal story from my family of how abortion can affect women and even the rest of the family, as kind of an introduction to what we're going to talk about today. So I shared this on Twitter right after the news broke that Roe versus Wade could possibly be overturned, which is wonderful news. I'm definitely praying for that. So I grew up in a faith-based home, grew up being pro-life, and then my parents divorced, and when I was 19, I was visiting my mom for spring break and came in one evening to find her just sobbing uncontrollably on the couch. And I thought, oh my, something terrible must have happened, and I rushed to her and put my arms around her. And it took her a few minutes to compose herself when I asked what's wrong, and she said, you know, I was pregnant, and I'm over 40. She was on some mental health medications. They advised her to have an abortion, and she did. But the significance of that day, why I found her there crying, was because that's the day that the baby was supposed to be born, a day that's etched in her memory the last 30 years. Of course, I cried with her. I couldn't believe it, especially growing up in a faith-based home. But she was single, scared, and getting advice from medical professionals that this was the best thing for her to do. It took her a couple of decades to even somewhat begin to forgive herself for that. Our entire family has mourned that loss of my sibling. My oldest son's 27. My sibling would have been 30 this year. How cool would that have been to have them grow up together and have that in our family? My mom now has taken that pain and works with women who are feeling regret and depression after having an abortion, and especially in the faith-based community, that sometimes women feel that have made that choice, and maybe they weren't particularly faithful before that, and then they are trying to find peace. They feel sometimes that they can't be redeemed from that because they took a life. But I'm here to tell you that they can, that as Jenna had shared backstage, that there's not one sin that the blood of Christ doesn't cover. So when I shared that story on Twitter a month ago about, got a lot of slings and arrows from that, but I also heard from a lot of my longtime Twitter friends, just ladies maybe in their 50s as well, that said, I still regret what I did 10, 20, 30 years ago. It still affects me. Or people that ended up marrying the man whose baby they had aborted, to put it bluntly, but that they as a couple still mourn that oldest child that they didn't have. So we're here to help educate you on some of the facts about this and give you the tools so that you can help prevent this from happening to other families, and that you can help women heal who have been through this.
Well, I'll jump in here. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Her story reached thousands and thousands of people on Twitter, and a lot of people opened up about sharing their own abortions and why they regretted their abortions, and helping other women not make that same choice. And so, the last 10, 15 years, I've been in pro-life activism since I was a teenager, and doing undercover investigations of the abortion industry, and seeing firsthand the lies that are being told to us every single day, whether it's in classrooms or through media or through celebrities who are presenting the death of a child as empowerment. And, it takes a voice, even just one voice standing up to say, this isn't true, this is a life, women deserve better, and that one voice of truth breaking through the noise can literally save lives. And I've seen this firsthand. I don't know here if anybody here follows Live Action or does their own posting online, but we get messages. We get messages every day, and our followers get messages every day. Different followers posting different things. There are thousands of these messages from women or girls who saw a pro-life post, and because of that post, a fact about fetal development, the heart's beating at 3.5 weeks from fertilization. It's amazing how quickly that baby grows. The facts about the abortion procedure, what the abortion procedure actually does to kill that baby. And we're going to be releasing a new campaign in 2 weeks called Abortion Procedures at abortionprocedures.com that you'll see to help educate. But these facts can save lives if we are willing to share them. If we're willing to share them and take the heat and go out and share them. And not just facts about human life and abortion, but also facts about healing, healing and recovery and support for women, support for pregnant mothers. You know, one of the resources that Live Action frequently pushes is the whole network of pregnancy resource centers, thousands of them, and opportunities to get involved in adoption or foster care, support for women who've had abortions, who feel abortion regret. Rachel's Vineyard is an amazing organization. All of these resources are listed at liveaction.org. So be equipped with knowing what the resources are so that we can then share them and be ready to give the truth about this whenever there's an opportunity, because your willingness to stand up and speak out will literally save lives. And today people are desperate for help, desperate for truth. There's so much confusion, and your voices are so needed.
If I can just add to that, you know, we open this panel with a personal story and the impact of story that it has when you share your own experiences, when you share the stories of people you've known. You know, I will say that the pro-choice side, the left, they use the power of story really effectively. And part of what we're doing at the Daily Wire, of course, is getting into the realm of storytelling through entertainment. And another thing I do is I'm a Rotten Tomatoes critic. I'm a film critic, and so I talk a lot about how these narratives inform how we think about issues. And sometimes what you'll see is that we focus on statistics, and that's important, but there are other people who those go right in and out of their head. And I'll tell you my story, because we all have these stories that relate to life and relate to what the cause of life means. My mom was 17 years old, unmarried high school student when she got pregnant. And I'm here today because she chose to bring me to full term, to give birth to me, to keep me. Yes. And, you know, she did it in an era when not only was abortion legal, but so little was known about it. We did not have the ultrasounds and the information that we have today. So I look at someone like my mom, and I look at my life, and I look at my kids, and she looks at her grandkids, and we talk about how grateful she is today, how grateful I am, obviously, that I'm here. And so I think, you know, along with arming ourselves with statistics, even if you don't have them, don't be afraid to tell your stories, because we all have them, and they're all persuasive.
We do all have stories, and you may not have a story like these ladies here. You may not have a story that you feel relates exactly to this, but you do have the story of Christ to share, and you do have the love of Christ to share. Because one of the things that the pro-life movement is often criticized for is that, well, you're not caring enough of women, and you're not empathetic enough, and how dare you take away women's rights. But this isn't just about making abortion illegal. It's about making abortion unthinkable. And that's what we have to do as the church. Because when we choose to share our stories, and when we choose to share the love of Christ and his story, and to say, you know, I have sinned, we all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and your sin is no greater than anyone else's, and showing that there is redemption, there is love, there is hope, no matter what we've endured in this life, that is a powerful message. And so as we're looking at all of the stories of women, and you're looking at how to best advocate, some of these things we have to debunk. And the myths that we have to debunk, first and foremost, are that we have to care about just the mother instead of the life of the child. In nowhere else at all in our American justice system do we ever punish an innocent, independent third party for the actions of two other people. And that's what's going on in an abortion. An abortion is a medical intervention specifically designed to cause the death of a human being. And that's the truth. And we have to be willing to stand up and say, we value and respect that all human beings are made in the image of God and have inherent dignity and worth. And once you ever draw that line anywhere else on the spectrum of life, from conception to natural death, if we choose to move that standard, then where does that end? And we've seen that in politics and policy, where now the state of California and other Democrats are trying to say, well, then for an hour up to maybe 20 days after the birth of a child, then the mother can choose to not give life to that child. Or the physician-assisted suicides, the end-of-life types of bills. If we ever move the bright line standard and say that the moral truth comes from us instead of God, then the question becomes, did God create us, or are we trying to create God? And that is ultimately the original sin, right? Where man was trying to become like God. And so all of these cases, when we're looking at the Dobbs case that's hopefully going to overturn Roe versus Wade, when we're looking at all of these arguments, we have to be telling our stories with love, but we also have to be telling and speaking the truth in love. And the truth is that every human being is valuable. And if you draw that line anywhere else, I like to call it moral gerrymandering. Because that's what they try to do, right? When they try to draw the lines around certain different demographics and different districts because they want to have and incorporate certain voters, that's what they're doing with moral lines. We have to keep the moral lines fixed and say that man cannot create God in our own image. We have to make sure that we are always, always advocating for truth.
Thank you. Our discussion has taken probably a little bit different turn than we had talked about backstage, but I think it's been perfect because we have covered a lot of the things that we wanted to share. And the main thing, like you said, Megan, the facts, it's true that the facts don't care about our feelings, but what persuades people is sharing our stories. And we need to do a much better job of sharing those stories as a movement, because the latest polls show that 57% of Americans believe that a woman should be able to get an abortion for any reason. So we've got a lot of minds to sway and hearts to open, and we can do that with our stories. And even if you don't have a story, like I give you all permission to share what I shared with you about my mom. If you don't have your own story, you can borrow one of ours. You can also just be that compassionate person. A lot of you, you're at the age where your friends could end up with a crisis pregnancy. How are you going to talk to them? I hope that we've given you some examples of things that you can talk to them about to advise them to choose life. And I encourage all of you to go to Lila's website to get all of the wonderful stats and resources there that you can share. And just stand up and be bold as a woman and talk about that motherhood is not a prison sentence. It's not a terrible thing. It's the most wonderful thing that you can do as a woman, is to create life. And be proud of that and be unabashed in sharing that with everyone. Thank you so much for listening today.